44 only.
Maybe they're on vacation.
Maybe. Not because they don't like
that's pretty good for the dog days of summer.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, a reminder for those who just joined, this is going to be recorded. It is pasted on YouTube and the public has access to it. So they can see how hard we're all working, and I appreciate you being here. 2 exciting things have happened in the past 2 weeks. Number 1, we welcomed Robin as our stand-in product owner, and she's been doing a fantastic job and has dedicated all of her time to us, and we're so, so appreciative. And then we created her a little emoji. We're quite proud of it. That's Robin holding her famous banana bread, which we've heard about. And then in the holidays, she makes an eggnog cranberry, which I'm also excited to try. So no pressure there, Robin. Everyone on this call wants a slice. And then also, we are now officially welcoming Deepak to our team. He had a soft launch with us and worked with us as kind of like a proof of concept, but now he's fully onboarded and we're ready to work. Well, he's already closing tickets. So yeah, I'm excited for you to hear more from him. And I'll just bring you guys up to the top of the page here, and we can talk about what we did last sprint as a reminder. So the devs walked us through the technical solution for notice of assessment and application number, program information request, and the student application summary page, which has since evolved. Lynn showed us cancel application. That generated a ton of feedback, which is awesome. And that was pretty much it. And we've made sure to capture all that good feedback. And how are you feeling? Robin, do you want to walk us through what our goals are for next sprint?
Sure. For this sprint, correct?
For this sprint, pardon me.
Yes, I can do that. So this is sprint 15. And honestly, looking at that number, I'm like, whoa, 15 already? Because it feels like it's gone so fast, but there we go. So in this sprint, we focused on some technical setup and decisions. So putting together application statuses, a solution for continuous entry, the UX UI or UI UX team, not sure which comes first, has worked on mapping out reporting scholastic standing. So that's withdrawals, early completions, unsuccessful completions. I think those were the main ones. And then also working on business rules and updates to education programs and offerings, which we also refer to as study periods or intakes. So that language still to be determined. And then on the development side, actually, I'm going to go back up. So you see a couple of things crossed off. Those are items that were either we weren't able to close during this sprint, or we've moved into continuing into the next sprint. Yeah. And then on the development side, more work on program information request, saving a draft of the application, program intensity, user profile versus institution detail. So making sure that institution users can see what they're supposed to see and edit what they're supposed to be able to edit as far as profile information. And confirmation of enrollment summary and student application summary work continuing.
Brilliant.
And then I think we go next to the business context. So kind of with the baker analogy, you've gathered all your different ingredients. This is the point where we're actually starting to see something come together a little bit, maybe, the shape of a cake or something. So we've been building all these different components, and now they're starting to get put together, and we can kind of see some processes from start to finish, which is very exciting. Also, we've started to dig into some of the business rules a bit more comprehensively, and that's going to continue. I know in past sprints, people have, thrown out questions about how is this going to work? Is that rule going to be in place? And kind of up till now, we've been saying, well, that hasn't been built yet. And now is the point where we're starting to build those in, and that's also quite exciting to be able to start adding those in. And we're continuing to maintain those iteration principles, so Scrum principles for iterating and making improvements. So as we're adding pieces, we realize, oh, we might need to add this back here to make this work. So that sort of activity is happening. And thinking through more deeply the withdrawal and scholastic standing processes, and kind of thinking about those as like kind of a similar set of activities. So what can we reuse or kind of use that pathway again? So, and then just as you look through the demos, just remember that some of that help text and the warning text, the content of that is still early days. So it's not like you're seeing the final version as we go through.
Perfect. Yeah. And thank you for mentioning that the picture is coming together. We do have a goal as a project team to maybe in 2 sprints from now, show you the full, go back and show you the full scenario of a student logging in to creating an application through to notice of assessment, and all of, some of that is done. Some of it is still needs to be enhanced, but at least all the pieces, puzzle pieces are put together. And similarly with the institution processes, creating account, creating their education programs and offerings, adding users. We can show you all of that in a couple of sprints. And we'll probably record it because other people outside of this call might be interested as well. We'll always record it, but we might do some more fancy recording on that one. Okay, so Roop, if you're on the line, if you could kindly speak about reporting a change in student circumstance.
Yeah, for sure. Hello, everybody. So reporting a change in student circumstance. That's a fun way to say report and update scholastic standing. Now, let's be clear. We all know what reporting a scholastic standing is, right? 46 people in the room? No. Well, so what we're trying to do is trying to figure out a way that we can actually describe what that change is to users who may be newer to their institution, and maybe even when we're discussing updating your scholastic standing, which equates to letting StudentAid BC know about changes in your school status, whether you're passing, failing, not attending, all these things, because that's very important to how we want to provide student loans and ensure that you're holding up your end of the bargain, which is actually going to school and doing the thing, right? So yeah, so we started with this conversation of, okay, well, what is it that we're trying to convey here? It's reporting a change in the student. And with this ticket, I had 2 tickets that were kind of running. One was about reporting withdrawal of the student, and then the other one was updating the scholastic standing, or updating the status of that student going to school. And so I kind of had it as 2 different tracks, but it kind of came back together into one because it felt like the workflow could work great together, and it would potentially save a few screens, save a few steps for the users. So that's what we went with. So let's jump into what that kind of looks like. Let me just share my screen here. All right, so welcome to Figma. This is what we designed in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the prototype for us. To give you a bit of background on this, what we've also said is that we want to make sure that devs are very clear on kind of the business rules that are happening. We're kind of in this fun place of a little bit of BA type work, a little bit more of understanding. And so what we did was in the background, I went through and looked at all of the different kind of cases, created a bit of a journey here of all the different cases. You don't need to read this, so don't worry if it's too small to see. The different status changes, what it means on what the institution has to report on, what the system needs to do with that information, what happens when this happens to a student, and what happens to a ministry staff user. And then we kind of went through all of the crazy business rules of what happens when this happens. When you change a status, what happens to that student standing? Any restrictions that have to happen? Any kind of punitive or non-punitive withdrawals? What does that mean? Does it mean that we knock you for not being a part of that program anymore? Are there other circumstances that are okay? Looking at all those rules. So we went through all that information, and that's going to provide a lot of detail for the dev team as they go forward as well. Okay, so here we are on this page, and we're viewing an application. In this case, this student has been confirmed as a student. They're actively taking this program at this school, but something went wrong or something went awry, and the school needs to update. If a student at a school just completes their program as intended, no issues, there is no action required for the institution. It'll just mark it as complete, things went well. But when things go sideways, let's talk about what happens there. So I'm going to click on the application actions, click on report a change, and you'll see a little bit of information about the student. And thank you, Nikki, for bringing this up. Is just kind of gives a bit of information about the study period, the program they're in, the intake they're in. This is basically the intake means for everyone who's new in the room is when are they going to school from? Is it the co-op term? Is it the full-time winter semester? Is it the summer semester? All that kind of stuff. And then there's a few statuses here. So what I've done is I've opened up all of the different statuses so you can see all the options underneath. So the first one is, great, the student completed their program successfully and early. And so what we need to know is the end date, because we need to recalculate how much money we gave them. Maybe we gave them extra money for cost of living, but they finished their program early, so it needs to be reassessed. The final cost, if they're different from what the institution had initially put in their program costing, they can update that here. Now, there's two that require a bit more thinking, and that's why they're red. We're not going to design it like this. It's kind of just heads up, we need to think through this further, and this is going to be in future tickets. And that's, what if a student reduces their course load to be part-time if they were full-time? Or what happens if they increase their course load if they're a part-time and become full-time? And so that's some information that we need to work through. How does the system handle that? So look forward to that in the next couple sprints. And the next one was a student did not successfully complete their studies. A lot of this stuff, kind of interestingly enough, was a bunch of like manual forms that took place, and we're actually replacing, I think, like 2 forms just with this single screen, which is exciting. Less load and paperwork for staff. And this is something that is replacing some functionality within SFAS, which is basically the matrix that is black and white and is like this weird DOS thing that staff and institutions need to use together. So if they don't complete successfully, we just have to give the reason. You can have multiple, whether it's grades, whether it's attendance, whether it's other, where they can enter a short story there if they need to. And then finally, if they withdraw from the program, they can select the last date of full-time attendance. Once you've done that, you've hit submit. And you'll see here that we update the scholastic standing for the student, give them the date, give them the update, give them the reason. Potentially in the future, if there's files that are attached, we would display those there. And that's how you update a student's status.
Thank you, Ruth. So we're going to go to Lynn, and we're all conscious of the time. We want to try and keep this to an hour. Lynn was focusing on some updates to programs and offerings, and so she's going to give us a high-level overview of that work that she's been doing. We can't hear you, Lynn, if you're speaking.
Sorry about that. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. So like Michelle said, for this sprint, we worked on education programs, updates to it. What does that mean? So you've already seen kind of the wireframes that we've done. This is really us just laying down the foundation of the fields. For the sprint, we looked at firming down the business rules, and this is kind of how we started to lay them out. And some of the business rules were like, if I answer this way in the program information, what happens, what displays on the offering? So we're starting to look at, we did look at the business rules and we have firmed them down. So that was an update on the education programs. We also took a deeper dive into the scenarios. So what is a scenario in an education programs workflow? What happens when an institution member wants to edit, let's say, a program information or an offering? And so we're starting to look at those editing scenarios with our users, with our institution users, as you can see here. We're outlining, okay, maybe for the program name, the description, offering, we're just going to let them update as they need to. However, there could be like impacts such as, you know, if I've answered it this way, you know, and I change my answer later, what is that going to impact? Is that going to impact reassessment? So we are taking a look at all of those scenarios and then deciding where to go from there. I'll kind of go through this quickly. I don't want to kind of read this all to you guys, but just if you guys want to refer to it, we do have the board up there for you guys to take a look at. So we started looking at editing scenarios. Then we had a discussion on about, well, what are the fields that we really want to edit? So we're starting to look at the fields that we're able to edit for MVP. We're also thinking about the future-proofing it so that we have those designs in place so that we can trigger after MVP as well. So those are things like appeals. But for this first round, for this first shot, what we've landed on in terms of editing program information and offerings is that a principle that Robin came up with was all fields are editable if no students are in it. So they can, what that means is that institution users can continue editing their program info and offering or study period as they need to if no students are in it. Part 2 of this update we're going to come back to that. We're going to need to define some business rules for editing if students are in it. So what does that look like? We don't know yet. We're going to come back to that and look at that again. This one, I think, needs a bit more thought in it. We want to reuse processes that are already built in place or we're planning. So we're just going to look at that in a later sprint. But that for this sprint, we've landed on all fields are editable if no students are in it currently. So kind of the outcome of this is just we're starting to create an education programs workflow here. I won't go deep into all the different sections, but you can see that we're starting to lay out our institution's experience. What does that look like? I had just talked about editing program info and offering if there's no students, so they're able to continuously edit that if they need to. This is kind of reflected here. So if they create a program, add offerings, goes through an automated system approval. We ask our study dates within this program year. If yes, if it's not, then they can keep on kind of editing into this kind of cycle. However, if it is published to students, again, we're going to need to do some further investigation down the road here. So that's kind of this pathway that I have lined up there. Apologies if that was kind of far to see, but you don't need to read it. It's just more of like a visual look at what we're doing in terms of the workflow. You'll notice that we're thinking about the students. We're also thinking about the staff interventions. What does that look like if when we go through the automated system approval, those business rules that I showed you on the side there earlier on the mock-ups, if that doesn't go through, what does that look like? What's the appeal process for that? So we're going to need to look at that as well. But as you can see, we have our foundation. You've seen how to create a program, add offerings. This sprint, we had firmed up those automated system approvals or those business rules, and then we're going to continue on with like the editing and what does it look like for those other scenarios. So here is kind of the grander workflow of what we're starting to build. In the future, we're going to start adding to this workflow and adding enhancements as well. So that's the education programs update for you guys. So we did a lot in one sprint, but it was very productive, and I think we got a lot of answers to the questions that the developers were looking for as well.
Yeah, awesome, Lynn. Thanks so much. I know there's a ton of different scenarios that can happen, and we're certainly not going to think of all of them up front. But we can do our best. And I think what you have there is a really, really good start to thinking through some of those future problems. So with that, I'm going to take back the screen briefly. We focused a lot on more development activity instead of big architectural setup, which is nice. We're getting there. So I'm actually going to pass it over to you, Anne, and you're going to talk to us about the student application summary and some of the updates regarding program intensity and how that looks on when an institution user adds other options to programs and offerings.
Yeah, I'll share the screen. You all can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So here I am logged in as a student. So here a student can view their application summary over here. And now, we have introduced this status, and student will be able to see their status, like the status of their status. And here, when the student clicks, they will be able to see the application view, the application details. And here we have the actions for the application. But if the student click here, he can edit the application. And if the student click the trash, he or she can delete or cancel the application. So I'm going inside the application details page. So this page is like under development. And here we have the option, again, the options to application options. Here we have like edit, view, and cancel. If the student click edit, he will be able to edit their application. He can go through like each and every tabs and he can edit the application. And if the actually view is a placeholder, we will be developing it in future sprints. And if they cancel the application, they will be having this pop-up. And if they close, they will be closing the model, and they can confirm the cancel application by clicking this button. When they cancel this application will be canceled, and also the workflow related to this application will be also deleted from the command. And they will be having this information that saying that this application was cancelled on and the cancel date. Now going back to the summary, they can do the same actions from this summary list itself without going to the summary, the application details. For example, if a student wants to edit the application, he can directly click this icon and he will be able to edit the application. And if they click the trash icon, they will be having the pop-up to cancel the application. And if they select the cancel application, then the application will be canceled and it will be updated over here also. So this is about the student cancel application. Now I'm going to the program intensity. For that, I have logged in. In my another browser, I have logged in as a student institution admin.
Okay, so now we're flipping words. You went from being a student and now you're an institution user.
Yeah.
Yes, got it.
Yeah. And yeah, and the institution homepage, the institution admin can select the program. Actually, for the program intensity, we have introduced some questions. So now onwards, when an institution admin create a new program, they will be asked this question, whether this program is a part-time basis. If they select yes, then the program will be both part-time and full-time. If they select no, then this program will be only full-time basis. So I'm creating a program very quickly. So I'm selecting yes, this program is both part-time and full-time. Submit. Now in the program list, you can see the program which I have created just now, degree. And when this program is viewed, they will be the admin can see the offering details over here. It will be saying that it is a full-time and part-time. They can also edit the program, and if they want to make it only full-time, then they can select here. And when you see the details, it will be only full-time. Similar way, we have added a question in the offerings also. This one, whether the offering of this program will be offered as full-time or part-time. So again, I'm creating a offering. So I'm selecting a full-time without no rates, no study breaks, no fixed cost. Blended. So now we have created a new offering, and in the type, it will be saying that this is a full-time offering. And again, we can edit it. We can make it part-time and send. Now the offering will be part-time. Yeah, so that's about program intensity. Yeah.
Thank you, Anne. So now we're going to go to Deepak, who's going to show us how we've separated institution details from institution user profile. Before we had them on kind of one page, and we've separated them out so that it's not confusing. So go for it, Deepak.
Hi everyone. So I'm gonna share my screen now. So I'm gonna, there are two scenarios to this. Like one is I'm gonna log in as an administrative user and the second as a non-administrative user. So the first is I'm gonna log in as admin user and show what was there before and what's modified. So here it is. So what we had before is like when we click on manage institution and institution details, then we have all the user details also being part of this form, the institution user details. So what the difficulty what we had is like if a non-administrative user is logging into our system and they won't have access to this manage institution and eventually the institution details, so they cannot change their institution or edit their institution profile details. So what we have done is first thing is we have removed the institution, the user details from this form, and what we have done is we have put that to the profile tab, which we have added here, and this will consist of only the user profile information. And for now, the email address is the only editable field here. So I'm going to make a small edit and show how this works. I'm going to remove this 1, 2, and then click on submit. And it says institution user has been updated successfully. And then I'm going to click on the profile again. And yes, it's got updated. So, and also by adding the profile here, we have added this user menu here, and which will have this notification settings, which is a placeholder for now. And we have this log off button moved on to the menu item. And when I click on the log off, it's going to log off this page. And it's going to come to the home page. Now the scenario 2, I'm going to log in as a non-admin user, a normal user, and I'm going to show how it looks like for them. So this is how I'm. So I don't have this the manage institution tab here. So only I have access to the profile. And again, when I go click on the profile, I would see my user profile information here. And again, here I can make an update and click on submit, which will save my user profile details. And so I'm going to have this again. So yes, again, and rest of them are going to be the same notification settings as I default play as a placeholder and then log off button. So yeah, that's everything I have to show.
Thanks so much, Deepak. Great first showing.
Thank you.
Applause, applause. Here you go. Okay, now we're going over to Guru. He's going to show us a student confirming their assessment and then also flipping over to the institution user viewing the confirmation of enrollment summary page.
Sure. Hey, hi team. Let me share the screen. Okay, so I have 2 tabs. One I have logged in as a student, and the other I have it as an institution. And I mean, in this sprint, we have introduced statuses for our application so that when the application moves from us from one state to other, we'll be able to track it. So we have already seen the submission of the student application. So I'm just going directly into it. So let's see an example like a student is actually submitting for the school location for Golden, and he's submitting for a particular type of offering, a spring offering. And we are just submitting. I have pre-filled every information already, so just bear with me. And when he submits the application, okay, the submission is complete, and you can see the button is actually submitting right now. So once it is completing submission and the assessment has been calculated in the workflow, you can see like okay, I do not know what happened. There has been
An unexpected error.
No, I think it might be due to my. Yeah, I think it's me. I mean, quickly I can just go through computer science, Spring or something. Okay, I can fill it soon.
I didn't start my timer. Shoot. I'm trying to get it under a minute.
I can do it in 45 seconds. Actually.
Ah, good.
So we give some information. So this is again to show like we are able to submit an application. The student is able to submit an application. I give the consent. Okay, let's see whether this time it passes or not.
Drum roll.
I'm not sure what happened, but I can just give an idea what is happening. So the application is in progress right now. So these are the application statuses we have introduced. So as soon as the application is in, behind the scenes, yes, it is in assessment and it has been moved to required state. Assessment in the sense like the assessment for the application has been completed. So I think the submission has been done. So you see the submit application again here. So when you come over here and as a student, when you check on the application page, okay, I'm just refreshing it. Coming here to check the application number, it is 86. So I come over here and see the 86 application should be here. See, and also you can see the statuses over here, right? So you can come over here and have a view on the application, view the assessment, because as it is in assessment state, you can see the assessment has been calculated by the workflow automatically. And as soon as the student thinks like, oh, okay, he's going to get this much of amount and he's eligible for it, and he can go and confirm the assessment to it. So once he okay, I can show as an institution user. This is the institution user, and you can see like for the location for Golden, you see like only 2 records, right? There is no application number 86. So once the students confirms the assessment here, you can see a pop-up saying like the confirmation of assessment has been completed. At the back end, yeah, the status has changed, of course. So that is the reason we are able to see those requirements like the it's moved from assessment to enrollment. And then as soon as the institution logs in and checks for the confirmation of enrollment, the institution is able to view the enrollment from the student automatically. This view page is in development. So yeah, this page is in progress.
That's coming
This is
next.
the confirmation of
sprint.
enrollment. Yeah,
Yep.
most probably. And yeah, for this sprint, we have introduced a lot of statuses, and we are able to track each and every progress of the application. That is what we done. Okay, back to you, Mitchell.
Thank you, Guru. So cool to see how, when a student does something on their side, how quickly it becomes active on the institution side to confirm.
Yeah, this
great
is connecting the dots.
Yeah, and we can easily see how in a couple of sprints we'll be able to show you the fluid all the way through, which will be exciting. Okay, and finally, Andrew Signori is going to show us how a student can save a draft and some more work on program information request.
Yes, hello. Can you see my screen, Michelle?
I can.
Okay, so I'm gonna just talk a little bit again about the application, just because it was introduced now. So now we have the ability to save the draft of an application. So when you are starting the application, we can do your normal select. We can go over the pages, and at every moment you can just click here, and you're going to be saving a draft of this application, and the student can find the draft in the list and continue later. So it doesn't matter what you are doing or which point you are currently, you can come here, you can drop some files, you can keep saving. It's as quick as it is. If I reload the entire page, we have the draft saved. The student can come back here and see the things as they are. So once the student have a draft in progress, and the draft could be at any point, the submit button is not available until the student goes to the final tab. The validations are still working as usual. So all of these is part of the saving draft. If the student go back to the application summary and try to start a new draft, is going to receive a message. So far, right now, we are allowing the student only one draft. And so he's not going to be able to create a new one. He needs delete the existing one or continue that. So right now, the pop-up is just mentioning that, and the student need to come here and just continue the application. Something like that. And that's the draft. So now the student can basically save at any moment and continue, and he is allowed to have just one draft of the application. That's about the application draft, Michelle.
Perfect.
About the program year, program info request.
Yeah.
Once the student completed the application with a program or an offering missing, the system is going to generate a PIR. The PIRs are going to be available here in the summary. The status are going to mention the ones that are required. I created these two just to demo some different scenarios. So the first one is a required. It is in the list. We are going to view it. When you're viewing it, we have the student name, some information that is also like displayed here. For this one, no offering was selected, and the program was the arts and science studies. So that is the information that student provided, and now is how the institution is going to complete it. So we have again the list of programs. The institution can change the program or can select an offering. So for this one, we are just going to select an offering from the existing list. And after this, I'm going to display the next scenario. So this is the PIR. I'm going to complete it. I hope that I'm going to complete it. Here you go. So now it's going to be like in the complete status. And that's it. The PIR is done. The application status was moved, and that PIR is completed. The other case is like the student was not able to find a program. So he provided a description for the program that he's looking for and also for the offering. The study period is here. So now the institution is supposed to provide a program and an offering again. The offering just to complete in a different way. If the offering is not here, or if the student needs a specific offering, a custom offering that's gonna be introduced only for that particular PIR. So the institution at this point can create an offering. And this offering is gonna be my new offering. It is gonna have exactly the same options from the normal offering if the institution would be creating in the offerings page. So we can select all the things here. Validations of supplies. You can select it. The values. It's the same process from the offerings. And the only difference, that's a big one, is this question here. Here, the institution can decide if this offering that they are creating for this PIR is going to be available for other students. Basically, if it's going to be public or it's going to be specific for this one. So if that is specific for this PIR, it's not going to be available for any other student. And it's not going to be present in the offerings list. So I'm going to go for that. I'm going to just change here my specific new offering. And the question asks, like, do you want to add this offering to student BC so future applications can select it? No, I don't. Only for this one. It's something specific. So I can complete the PIR in the exactly the same way. And it's now completed. I don't exactly remember the number, but when you load it back, you can see that we can view a read-only PIR from a previously completed one. So now everything is read-only, and this one is the one that we just completed with the custom offering. So we can see the custom offering here, because this custom offering is not going to be displayed anywhere else in the system. Different from the other one that was completed with an offering that belongs to the offering lists that is public. So this one, right now, we are just displaying the offering selected. The other one that is specific, we are not displaying it. So when I say the offering list, if we come to the programs, we have the programs and we have the list here. I don't remember the program that I selected this one. So here is where the specific offering is not going to be displayed because that is the specific. But there, if you create a public one, it's going to be exactly the same as this one, and it's going to be displayed here. And you can edit it and do exactly what we can do with a normal offering. So completing a PIR could be like with a offering selected from the dropdown, or could be like from a custom one, and or you can add a new one directly there. I think that it is that, Michelle. I don't know if Andrew has something else to add.
Andrew, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope. I was just going to say one quick thing. I say nope and then say one thing. It is that I'm sure some of you have noticed that there is some delays and stuff in doing the completion and all that. We do have tickets in our backlog about optimizing and looking into speed things, everything. So don't worry about that. It's still up and coming.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Signor. Is there anything else you wanted to show, or you're good? Okay.
I'm good.
Good, good. We got a lot of great questions, but before to get to that, we're gonna quickly talk about our goals for next sprint. Take it away, Robin. You're on mute.
There we go. There was a bit of a delay after I hit the button. So yes, so goals for next sprint. You can see the UI UX team has full and part-time application updates. So that's just, so that's part of the iterative process where, we've gone through, here's the application. Okay, now we've done this next piece and we realize we need to add in this. So that's kind of how the agile process works. We are continuing to work on education programs and offerings, which is also what we call typically study periods. So just flagging, I know there was a comment earlier. It's not that an offering is different than a study period, but this is the terminology that we're currently have in our system, and we'll look at that in the future. Notifications approach and settings. And then doing some continuing research around restrictions because we're starting to run up against processes that will result in a restriction. So now we need to look at how that's going to look in our system. And also, I know many people are eager to hear how we're going to collect information from parents and spouses. So we're still doing research on that piece. And then some updates to the notification of assessment. And then on the development side, we're looking at developing the ability for an institution to deny or decline a program information request, more work on confirmation of enrollment, the business rules for the Canada student grants around eligibility, and having the institution type on the account.
Perfect. Okay, now we're gonna go to some of your questions. And Robin, we've got your back.
All right.
We can't answer them all.
Okay, so I'm gonna work my way across. Is that the best way?
Yeah.
Or should I go top to bottom?
I try and group them into categories. Yeah, go top.
Left to right.
Left to right. There it is. Like a book.
Perfect. Okay. Will the cancel option be removed for applications where funding has already been dispersed? I believe it just won't be available. Maybe one of our UX UI folk can tell us if that's already been laid out.
Yes, that's correct. So we don't need a cancel if there's nothing to cancel really. So we will be removing the cancel for specific scenarios like that where funding has been dispersed.
Yeah, I wanted to
Confirmation.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Wanted to add to that, maybe not just when the disbursement happens, but when the confirmation happened, because the process of disbursement will be launched and if student cancels within it, it doesn't mean the money won't go out because it may be already out of SABC and with national, and we don't stop their disbursement process. So yeah, just
that makes sense.
Be aware where to cancel so that it's actually not interfering with anything else.
Thank you.
Noted. If a student selects cancel an application, is there any prompt to ask, are you sure you want to cancel, with mention that the cancellation is final or not reversible? I think what you saw was the pop-up, the kind of, are you sure? So they hit the cancel option and then that pop-up came up and they could either close it or continue with the cancel. And so perhaps we'll just make a note that that messaging needs to be clear. We haven't finalized all of the warning messaging.
One thing I think that was the suggestion, was just sort of one of those "Are you sure?" pop-ups that say, in addition to the pop-up that was demonstrated. Just
okay,
like, are
so,
you sure you want to cancel because this is a final
are
decision?
You really
you
sure?
can't come back.
Or
So we have that on one part of the workflow, but from the summary page, if they select cancel, it did just cancel. So we might want to look at that and
Okay.
provide the pop-up there.
Thanks, Michelle.
It does there, Michelle.
It does.
Yeah, the pop-up
Okay.
says you'll still be able to view your cancel application, but you can no longer make any edits. Are you sure you want to cancel?
Okay. Well, maybe it's that we're just going too dang fast and we need to slow down our presentations because we're missing things. So it's there and we'll do our best to make sure it's more obvious. Awesome.
If the institution indicates that a program is full-time only, and then on the student application, the student indicates that they're taking the program part-time, will the student application be denied or trigger a PIR? I think, Lynn, we talked about that one. I don't know if we landed on it. I don't think it's going to be canceled, but what we do with that, I think a PIR is an option.
Mhm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, lots of things are if it doesn't line up, lots of things are flowing through program information request.
Yeah. It may be better to remove right after confirmation of enrollment.
Oh, this goes to the
So
cancel
that's-
question. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was feedback after that. So we'll keep that in the feedback notes. And there was a comment about the submit font in black being hard to read. One of the things that we are also working on is kind of an accessibility checklist. And so part of that is going to be, the requirement to make sure that the visibility is also accessible, I believe. So this is definitely good feedback, but these are things that we will definitely be looking at before implementation, is making sure that people can see what they need to see. So,
yeah.
Are we standardizing definitions of winter, spring terms or offerings? Because students or different schools use different definitions. Definitely that is top of mind, that different schools use different terminology. And so we may have gone too quickly, but the offering, the institution is able to name their own offerings. And so we are not standardizing, we are letting the institution give a name that will best help the student select the correct study period. And then there's a couple of questions about confirmation of assessment.
So I just want to confirm this was when Guru was showing the notice of assessment, and there was a button at the bottom that said confirm assessment on behalf of the student. Is that correct? Whoever wrote this
Yes.
question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm unless one of our UX UI folk have a bit more to add on that, I actually am not.
We weren't here for that.
I don't know the answer to that.
Schwenker, I feel like you have the answer to this.
Sure. So basically, this is some future thinking, especially when like there's still a lot of things in the works, specifically about like grants and loans and those types of things, and where and how that's gonna go forward. This button was particularly here to push the application from after the notice of assessment is generated to basically the student pushing it into the queue for an institution to be able to confirm the enrollment. And then it's on the institution side to push it sort of back to the student, and then in that state, which we haven't built yet, for the confirmation enrollment.
So they are confirming the amount for grant and loan. They're saying, yes, I understand what's on this notice of assessment. Please continue me to the next step in the process.
Yeah, as we have it right now, it is basically just confirm this screen to make it go through with some enhancements flagged there, but still a fair amount of things with that screen about to be fleshed out about what those options could look like.
There's a little bit of a concern around that for us, in that if a student doesn't see it or doesn't push the button, it holds up the process. I could see it being useful if we do implement the grant only option, But when it's just an assessment, a notice of assessment, it should just move through without the student having to say, I've seen the assessment. It just feels like another kind of
And
halt in the process.
Elise has flagged that as basically that goes on top of the automated process. So if we want a manual one, that is basically the manual way of pushing it forward. But if we put an automated process on top of it that does exactly what that button does on behalf of the student, like that's where the baseline of it is there. And
Okay.
if we do automate it, we can tack on the automation of that. Does
Um,
that make
can I?
sense?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense from the user point of view for the student. Put it down into to-do list, so a notification of assessment there is a, so student needs to know they need to do it and just confirm your assessment. It's just a new piece that doesn't really self-explanatory.
It is a new piece that doesn't feel necessary. I agree. And that's what we're saying, Andrew, is all. And it sounds like Elise has already flagged it. So having it automated would be the preference, not having manual intervention by the student required. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, Elise could probably comment better on that either next grooming or something. But yeah, she's flagged that definitely.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I'm gonna may go a little over the hour. I hope that's okay. There's a question about tuition remittance in the workflow. That wasn't part of the work of this sprint, and so I'm not sure that I am able to speak to that. I don't know if somebody else on the team wants to comment at all.
So tuition remittance, we're not sure if it's on the notice of assessment or not. There's still a lot of discussion that will be happening on the notice of assessment. And a lot of thoughts around the student should be confirming whether they agree or not, or whether they accept that the tuition remittance is happening. So it's sensitive topic and we're looking at all angles.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, Michelle, that one's still being discussed. But as it stands right now, my understanding is that at the confirmation of enrollment stage, a student will be alerted if the school is looking to remit any of their funding directly to them. And if they do nothing, that will happen. If they say, I don't want that, then it'll stop it. So I think that's where we're standing right now. But again, this might be one for Elise to confirm when she comes back, and no final decisions have been made, to my understanding.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right, and then there's a question about, well, there's a few different comments about statuses. So I see that somebody's flagged the draft versus in progress of a submitted, and then assessment. So there's a little bit of confusion. So our UX UI team is still looking at terminology for statuses and making sure that they're going to be clear to students. And I see somebody's commented about the color code of status. That would be helpful, and definitely that's something we're considering as well. Is that helpful? And then terminology around permanent disability. I don't know off the top of my head what the exact terminology is in the current application, but as we head closer to launching, definitely any changes to what the terminology that we are required to be using will
I just
definitely.
flagged that, Robin, because I thought I saw it when you were sort of scrolling through the deck, and just sort of just a heads up that it looks like the feds are going to change that. We use permanent disability because that's the term that's in the Financial Aid Act regulation, and they're going to change that probably within a year. So just a good idea to keep that in the back of your mind.
Absolutely. And then the offering availability feature, I think that was the ability to make an offering for study period, whatever we end up calling it, available to all students, not just a specific student, was very cool. Was that the correct? Was that where that comment was headed? I think so. I think it's cool, so I'm just assuming you do too. All right, statuses. So yeah, just making sure that we're careful about assigning statuses because there's so many different pieces to the application life cycle. So that's great. Oh, difference between study period and offering. I think I already mentioned. We don't have a final terminology. I believe Lynn, the UX UI team does have plans to do user testing. So what we really don't want to do is spend a lot of time changing terminology and then changing terminology again and then change. So just we would like to kind of get to a point where we have users give us feedback and then deal with any changes at that point rather than kind of an unending cycle of tweaking the language.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robin. Oh, I asked that question only because on the PIR we were using offering and study period, and whatever we do land on, that we're consistent and we don't add more terms that can essentially mean the same thing. That was where that comment was coming from.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for clarifying.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. We have updates because we were getting feedback in the design tool and then it got built and da. So we do agree it needs to be consistent. For now, the rule of thumb is that we're going to keep it offering until that usability testing. And we know that, the hundreds of institutions, each of them will have a different opinion. So we're going to just land on one.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then there is a question about when an institution is creating program offerings, if the information is validated prior to being available to students. Yes, we are putting in automated validation. So that was some of the work that we did this past sprint, or I guess sprint 15, was getting some of those business rules in place. So yes, validations. And is there anything else, Michelle? You've been adding more. Is there?
Yeah, we're going off the page, so
I
I'm gonna have to
know.
move things around after. But can you see my screen, Robin? There's quite a few more questions.
Oh, yikes. Okay, so great. I'm skipping past. I've talked about offering already.
Okay.
Colors passed to dev, so that's great.
Yeah.
Language included so that the student understands what approve assessment does. Absolutely, we will be working to make sure the language is as clear and straightforward as possible so that there aren't questions about what it is that the student is doing or expected to do. And okay, so a suggestion that we need to have a hold or pause option for assessment approval. I'm not sure what that is specific to. I don't know if somebody could clarify.
This is my question, Robin. This goes back to the, do the student having the option to approve the assessment results prior to confirmation of enrollment? I was just thinking that, I don't recall having seen any of our own sort of controls in or overrides or anything to have a hold or pause option that we would initiate. So perhaps this would be a suitable purpose. That's all I was thinking.
Okay, so from the ministry side,
right?
To have something like that.
Yes.
Definitely. Well, we'll keep a note.
I don't know
if
if this is the right place for it exactly, but that's just just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think as we get to building kind of the ministry side of things, or the views and actions, definitely that's the feedback we need to use. Tuition remittance sounds like it could be like a check if you agree question at the end of the application. I believe that was one of the items discussed. So I think we're not quite there yet, but yes, that was also one of the ideas that was part of the discussion. And make sure you consult students from a cross section of program types. Awesome. Yes, absolutely. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so with students going back to school in the fall and us just completing like an entire scenario that a student could walk through, we're thinking that we can go to that user community in October. That's what we're shooting for right now. Okay, any other questions, comments before we see you in 2 weeks?
I see one. Tatiana shared possibly currently when students put an app on hold for any reason, they have to call SABC. I assume that means they have to call SABC to put the application on hold.
Yes. So yeah, just wanted to flag that hold is a very used item by the applicants, and right now they need to go through 2 tiers to put an application on hold. And so we're giving them right now only submit and cancel option. It's just a general comment, not related to the assessment part of it, but just it's important for students to have an option like that. And maybe the same as cancel, they can put it on hold at certain time, but they can't put it on hold after confirmation or disbursement. But it's an important thing to have actually for a student, so that they don't have to be on hold and call us if they want to put the hold on assessment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so what does hold? Yeah, just had a question. So what does hold do to the application is that it stops the assessment process, so that no disbursement goes out, no confirmation goes out, and student might need to go back to school to confirm things, or they want to change the schools. They don't want to cancel the application per se, but they might need to settle some things before they want to proceed with the application itself. So there could be many reasons. Disputes with the school change, going to school in general or not. Just gives them a bit flexibility so that they are not using up those application numbers just by keep canceling it if something goes wrong.
Okay, good point.
And it's used. It's being used. It's not just something good to have. It's used frequently.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, we'll make a note of that and see how that fits into the workflow. I see Lynn and I'm sure Roop and others are nodding when they're thinking through this. So thank you very much. Is there anything else? Thanks for the compliment, Phil. We'll take it.
I just want to say thank you to everybody on the business side who's been there to answer questions as I go through this process. There's been a few people who I've, tagged with question after question on some of these things, just to, make sure that I've got the feedback I need. And for the mod team, just great support. I was a little intimidated to fill in for Elise, and it's been really good. Everyone's been really great. So thanks.
How's your experience being on the mod team in the past 2 weeks?
Insanely busy, but kind of exhilarating and exciting, a bit of a roller coaster ride, if you will. Yeah. And I like roller coasters, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's intense. Anyone else want to join us? No. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks very much, guys. We will see you in 2 weeks. Have a great day.
Thank you.